Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was part of the Avengers. Naruto left the elemental nations and wound up in a world where flying metal man, magic, and gods exist. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 55, Dogfight. Gulmira, Afghanistan. May 28, 2009, 0700H local. What are we doing this time? Eric asked from atop a cliff, positioning himself as an overwatch. The 10 rings are moving their forces inside Gulmira. They're going to make it their new forwarding base. Naruto replied through the comms on the other side of the village. I know someone from here, and we're going to do him a favor. As expected, Tony and Pepper were surprised by Naruto's revelation, causing them to forget temporarily about the shield talk. Being an alien god really does send anyone into an existential tailspin. After an hour of Naruto calming the couple down, he had been forced by Tony to do all kinds of tricks with chakra, including walking up walls and making fires. Good thing Naruto had the forward thinking not to blurt out that he could call for the dead and make anything he can imagine. The whole reveal finally convinced Pepper that Naruto was more than qualified to guard Morgan. His price to protect Morgan was a copy of Tony's armor and the base code for Jarvis's program. Who knows what he could come up with if he combines Wakandan tech and Tony's designs. Naruto decided to stay with the Starks for 3 days, giving Natasha and Jessica more than enough time to work things out. However, he was checking in on the location of the pair from time to time. That was why he was surprised when he sensed them going to Washington and staying there for a day. Before Naruto left, he planted an invisible Hirosaki tag on Morgan. He also gave her a 12-bead bracelet similar to the Wakandan Kimoyo beads. But this time, each bead was a fortified hinged clone placed into stasis. This effectively gave Morgan a 12-man bodyguard team. He conveniently left this detail out of Pepper and Tony's knowledge though. When Naruto got back to New York, he was surprised to learn that Nat had already filed for leave so that Naruto could push forward with her operation. Naruto tried to subtly, well subtle for him, pry out what Nat's and Jess's disagreement had been about. But both of them immediately shuts up every time he tries to pry more on the topic. Naruto brought Nat and Jess to Switzerland to utilize the already existing equipment he used for Peggy's de-aging. He was only able to release a calming breath after the operation was finished. Natasha never felt so weak before, which caused her to panic a little. Good thing, Peggy was there to reassure her that it was normal. The group decided that Nat would stay with Peggy for the duration of her 3-month rehabilitation before she goes back to light duty. Jessica has no choice but to return to New York since she still has to go to uni. Naruto was snapped from his thoughts when something moving at high speeds got inside his default sensing range. He activated his Sharingan before focusing on the incoming object. Motherfucker! Naruto said in a whisper. What's happening? Eric asked when he heard Naruto's exclamation through the comms. We're going to have a visitor. Don't shoot it or blow it up. Naruto replied. You're not going to tell me who or what it is? Eric said incredulously. You'll know when you see it. Was Naruto's short reply. He's here. Eric scanned the area through his high magnification spotting scope, trying to figure out where he is, but he didn't see anything. That was when he heard a faint whirring sound coming from the sky behind him. As soon as he turned around, he saw a red and gold streak flying towards the center of Gulmira, near where the rockets were. What the hell was that? Eric exclaimed while repositioning the scope to get a better look at the streak. Through his spotting scope, he could see that the blur was actually a red and gold armor. Damn, he finally finished it. Took him longer than I thought. Eric heard Naruto say through the comms. Of course, you know the guy in the suit of armor. I mean, why wouldn't you? Eric commented exasperatedly, while still looking at the events unfolding below. The dude was doing everything, taking out terrorists, and blowing up the weapons cache in vehicles, leaving a mess behind. Are we even needed here? Guess not. Naruto replied. But we should stay here in case something unexpected happens. It was a good thing that fate decided not to throw Naruto another curveball, since 10 minutes later, the armor started flying out again, after taking out a group of terrorists holding some civilians hostages and a tank who shot him down after his initial takeoff. The armor suit flew off to God knows where, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. Seeing that there was nothing else for them to do, Eric started packing up the stuff, but not before sweeping his sights through Gulmira to make sure everything had been handled. He stopped in his tracks though, when he heard Naruto behind him. The fucker is going to get himself killed, Naruto said before Eric turned around. Naruto pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Hey, Jarvis. Can you patch me through to Tony's suit? He asked. This was Eric's first concrete proof that there's someone inside that suit. Of course, sir. Patching you through now. Jarvis replied quickly. Naruto. Hey. I'm kinda busy driving right now. I'll call you back. Tony said quickly through the phone. Don't fuck with me, Tony. I just saw you blow up a tank. Naruto replied in an exasperated tone. What the hell? I just saw you at the gala before I left. Tony exclaimed. That's a clone. Does Pepper know about this? Naruto asked. Naruto knew that Tony left the gala, but he didn't keep track of him since Tony left with Happy. He thought he was just fed up with dealing with the press. The press had been trying for the past 3 months to get some scoop on the family. Even Congress can't get enough traction to force Tony to change his decision about holding the military contracts. Tony's in-depth investigation of the books, through Jarvis's help, turned up some pretty interesting things, and he didn't like where it was going. Every bit of evidence that he uncovered points out that someone high up, like someone high enough to sit on the executive table, was manipulating the system. I liked it better when we didn't know about you. I could still counter how you found out stuff in front of Pepper. Tony retorted. Do you still want to know what I'm going to tell you? Just say it, man. It isn't easy to fly in a suit of armor. Well, it's about to get a whole lot harder. You just flew over a U.S. military restricted airspace. Expect some tails on you. Fuck. Was all Tony said before he cut off the comms. Well, that was rude. Naruto commented before pocketing his phone and turning his head back to Eric. You're going down there to sweep the main areas. Make sure nothing dangerous got left behind. What are you going to do? Eric asked while picking up his gear. I'm going to help the guy in the armor. He's about to get shot down by a squadron of F-22s. Naruto answered before picking up the excess gear left by Eric. Let's meet back here in 3 hours. He added before suddenly disappearing. What the hell is he going to do against 4 F-22s? Eric mused before running down the mountain to do what's left of his mission. Naruto, on the other hand, Hiroshineed just under Tony's armor. He had to activate his flying ability to prevent himself from falling from the sky. Tony's radar must have been compromised when the tank shot Tony down. He knocked on Tony's chest plate to get Tony's attention. Tony was trying to reboot his evasive and detection systems while flying when he heard knocking on his armor. He looked down and saw something a lot crazier than his armor, Naruto flying just below him. The crazy part was he was flying just over Mach 1. His surprise caused him to tumble through the air before stabilizing himself again and hovering around 25,000 feet. You can fly. Of course, you can fly. Why wouldn't you? Tony sarcastically commented. We have no time for that. Naruto interjected. You have 4 F-22 incoming, we have got to go now. He said before trying to reach Tony, but he suddenly stopped the second before his hand touched Tony's armor. Fuck. We're too late. They have visual. As soon as Naruto said that, he pushed Tony away from himself. Cuts started appearing across his skin, which alarmed Tony. Especially after strands started coming out of those cuts and started crawling over his skin, eventually covering his whole body. The strings weaved themselves together to look like some sort of fabric. In the end, Naruto looked like he was wearing a slightly bulky full bodysuit. He was also now wearing a dark orange helmet. Tony finally understood why Naruto was so obsessed with his armor design. Although Naruto's armor was a lot more streamlined than his own, and had the ability to be deployed anywhere quickly, he could influence his Project Night plan based on Naruto's armor. He also made a mental note to ask Naruto about the metastatic stands that form his armor. Jarvis also managed to fix Tony's evasion system, but the radar was still offline. "Stop daydreaming, Tony," Naruto said as he shook Tony's shoulder, snapping him out of his stupor. "We need to take those planes down, or at least break their line of sight, as well as the satellite surely aimed at us. Fly low and head for the mountain ranges when you get rid of your tail. Stay on radio contact. I'm on channel 43. He explained the plan. When the jets were finally a few kilometers away, the pair nodded to each other before separating. Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. May 27, 2009, 21:20 local. Rhodey was rushing towards mission control. Creech AFB was the primary base for operations conducted overseas. Being called down here instead of Edward's office meant something happened overseas, and since he was the Air Force's expert on advanced and experimental planes, they found something they couldn't identify. As soon as he passed through the doors, Major Michael Allen immediately pulled him aside to brief him. Some people might wonder why a major could be disrespectful to a colonel, but there were some insinuating circumstances involved. Mainly because Rhodey primarily worked on the R&D, and Allen is on operations. At 19:45 local, something showed up on the radar in Bagram. It was as fast as a commercial jet, and it was headed towards eastern Afghanistan. They first thought it was a system glitch since analysis showed that it was smaller than a car. But after rechecking, they determined that it was not a glitch. Major Allen explained. This information surprised Rhodey. He couldn't think of any object that fits into those parameters except for a slow rocket, but they would have already considered it. We lost it when it got below the mountain ranges. An hour later, it showed up again, and this time it flew through restricted airspace. The on-site officer decided that he wouldn't take any chances and decided to scramble 4 Raptors. They're going to have visual any minute now. That's where you come in. We need you to identify the aircraft. You got satellites overhead? Rhodey asked. We borrowed the satellite that the CIA was using over Iraq. The problem is, it's an old model. The best we can do is track the objects that we're monitoring. But it's better than nothing. Allen replied. After Major Allen finished, the wing leader reported, his voice loud and clear over the speakers. This is Raptor 1. We just got visual on our HUD. Still too far for visual confirmation. The pilot reported. Do a flyby. Find out whatever the hell it is. Allen ordered. Sir. The satellite indicates we have 2 bogies, but they are too close to each other for the radar to confirm. An operator reported to Allen. Raptor 1. We have a reason to believe that there might be bogies. Please confirm. Allen said to the comms. 10-4. The pilot replied, but something happened. 2 signatures suddenly appeared on the radar. We got confirmation. Break 2. Break 2. The lead pilot ordered, causing the squadron to split up. Both attempts of radio contact failed. Permission to engage. Negative. Confirm visual contact first. Allen replied. Central Afghanistan. May 28, 2009, 0850H local. Naruto was enjoying himself flying through the sky. He was still holding himself back a lot just to let the US's best fighter jet catch up. He made sure to create the illusion of rockets similar to what Tony had with his armor. This was to make them think that he used some form of external propulsion. Let's see how fast a raptor can go, Naruto whispered to himself before speeding up to Mach 2 and climbing to 50,000 feet. Tony, on the other hand, did the opposite. He dropped to 5,000 feet and opened up his air brakes, causing the jet to zoom past him. The low-altitude flight severely restricted the F-22's flight capabilities. He should know, he helped design the thing. But the pilots were better than he thought since they were on him again after a minute. "They're good," Tony commented. "How are you doing?" he asked. "Having fun," Naruto replied. "Your planes can't turn. You should look into that. I wanted to fix that. They were just too cheap to pay for it," Tony retorted, still annoyed with the whole thing. Naruto laughed at Tony's statement before speaking. "I'm going to spice things up a bit. Just warning you." Naruto then made a titanium steel alloy javelin and threw it towards the second raptor. Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. May 27, 2009, 2140H local. Bogey just went supersonic. Engaging afterburners. The lead pilot reported. Still trying to get a visual. Raptor 3. Bogey B looks like a man, but I'm not sure. The pilot following the second object reported. The report gave Rhodey an idea, but he just could seem to zero in on it. Something almost hit Raptor 2. Permission to engage. The lead pilot shouted through the comms. Shit, shit. Alan exclaimed. Permission granted. AMRAAM launched. The pilot said. We got a hit. He reported after flying past the ball fire. Good work. Help out with the second bogey. Alan ordered, still looking at the aerial view of the area. Sir. We're still picking up a reading. The same operator reported. Raptor 1. The bogey is still in the air. I repeat. It's still in the air. Central Afghanistan. May 28, 2009, 0910H local. Fucking hell. They're not playing around. Naruto exclaimed while shaking his head. He dropped to 40,000 feet, since he didn't expect the strength of the explosion. What was that? Tony asked, still trying to evade the jets. They just used an AMRAAM on me. Took me by surprise. Naruto replied while trying to remove a creak in his neck. How much are those planes again? I feel like I should not answer that question, but what the hell, it's not mine anyway. It's 150 million apiece. Tony answered. So, 300 million, huh? That's cheap enough. Naruto mused to himself. Try to stay out of the airspace near me, Tony. Naruto followed the two raptors that just tried to shoot him down. It looked like they were trying to circle back towards his previous position. Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. May 27, 2009, 2147H local. Rhodey pulled out his phone and dialed a number. After 3 rings, the other line finally answered, but there was a lot of background noise. Tony. Tony. Why is it so loud? Rhodey asked. I'm driving. What do you need? I just need to know if you have got some toys left behind in Afghanistan. Nothing. Why? Good. 'Cause I got 2 assholes that were going to blow to Kingdom Come. Rhodey said before closing the phone and focusing back on the comms. Something just landed behind me. Raptor 2 shouted. Go in front of me. I can't see you from here. I got a visual. A man is standing just behind your cockpit. Shake him off. Raptor 1 ordered. Fuck. I can't shake him off. Shit. What the hell is happening? Alan shouted. The guy just activated my ejector seat. Raptor 2 reported while slowly falling. His jet was not so lucky though, since it crashed on the mountainside. This is Raptor 3. Bogey 2 is also a man. He's holding onto Raptor 4's belly. That's when Rhodey's phone started ringing again. It's me. Tony shouted. What? It's me in the suit, and the other one is Naruto. Central Afghanistan. May 28, 2009, 0920H local. That was just awesome. Naruto said to himself before turning his head back towards the other plane that was headed straight towards him. Let's try this one. Katan, Garayaka no Jutsu. A fireball turned dragon launched out of Naruto's mouth and flew towards the F-22. The pilot tried to evade the fireball, but it just followed him around. After a few seconds, the pilot just bailed on his plane. Naruto then commanded the dragon to hit F-22, virtually engulfing it in a ball fire. This also caused all the ammo and armaments to explode. Damn. Probably too much chakra. Naruto commented with a sheepish look. Chapter 56, Meet the Parents? Stark's Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. May 27, 2008, 10:30H local. Pepper rushed towards Tony's workshop/garage. He had been missing ever since the firefighter gala, and she was worried that he got himself into trouble again. She pushed Naruto for information, but he kept his mouth shut. He just said that Tony was not dead. That's why when Jarvis informed Pepper that Tony had finally arrived and was holding himself up in the garage, she dropped everything in the office and ran back home. She barged through the door and ran down the stairs, although she was not expecting the scene in front of her. She entered the security code and walked inside. Tony? Pepper whispered in shock, pulling Tony's attention. Tony looked towards Pepper, while still suspended midair with metal contraptions on each limb, trying to remove the red and gold armor that he was wearing. He sputtered a few moments before giving up on defending himself. Be honest. We've done a whole lot worse than this. Tony deadpanned. Pepper's face immediately turned as red as her hair. She was about to reprimand Tony when she heard something that made the situation a whole lot worse. I don't need to know what nasty things you do in your private time. Pepper heard from somewhere in the computer lab. She slowly turned her head towards the source of the voice, and saw Naruto leaning back on a chair with his feet up on the table and eating ramen. Naruto. I didn't see you there. Pepper replied, trying to brush off her embarrassment. Obviously. Naruto said as he placed down the ramen bowl. We can forget everything that was said if you do me a favor. Oh, thank God, yes. Pepper replied, a lot more relaxed. What do you need? Well, one is for me and one is for Tony, really, Naruto said sheepishly, which is immediately mirrored by Tony. This immediately sent warning bells up Pepper's mind. What did you two do this time? Pepper questioned, preparing herself for the inevitable headache. Oh. You really don't want to know. Naruto answered with a chuckle. He also noticed that after 25 minutes, Tony finally got out of his suit. Tony needs one F-22 with all the bells and whistles, and I need 2 of them. Just send them to Rhodey. What? Pepper exclaimed before turning towards Tony. Where the hell did you go? Afghanistan. Tony said quietly. He expected Pepper to blow up again, but she just stood there with her arms crossed while tapping her foot, urging him to continue. The 10 rings somehow got 3 Jerichos, tanks, and a lot more stuff. They holed up in Gulmira, so I took my new suit and went there myself. And how did you get involved in this? Pepper asked Naruto, still using her mom look. I was there first. It's your husband's fault that he decided to take my job. Naruto retorted. If anything, you should thank me. I just pulled Tony out of the crosshairs of 4F22. Hey! It's not my fault that a tank shot me down and banged up the hardware. Tony defended himself automatically, but Naruto's grin informed him that he just made the wrong move, and it wouldn't be long before he figured out why. You got shot down by a tank. When were you going to tell me this? Pepper exclaimed, causing Tony to try to take a step back before stopping himself. He slowly walked towards Pepper, took her hands, and hugged her. Look, Pep. I'm okay. I'm not hurt, though I can say that I'm shaken up by the fall. Tony whispered to Pepper. Pepper hugged Tony tighter. This was so she can subtly pat Tony's body for injuries and, at the same time, hide her teary eyes. When she was satisfied that Tony was indeed okay, she let go of him and wiped her eyes. I still don't know why you need 3 raptors. Pepper stated. Tony flew over restricted airspace, which is why the military tagged him. I was going to teleport us here, but they already had a visual on us, so we scrammed. Naruto interjected before Tony could explain. Tony accidentally hit one of the planes. Me, not so much an accident, but more of a controlled explosion. He added while making a fire dragon appear in his hands and making it dance around him just to emphasize his point. This fire shows left Pepper and Tony a little dazed. Ever since Naruto revealed to the couple about his origins and skills, he had been using his skills more and more in private, and they still couldn't believe it. Although the pair had 2 wildly different reactions. Tony had tried to interrogate Naruto for how he does it and what else can he do. His academic and scientific mind wouldn't allow him to rest until he figured out how Naruto did everything. The chakra explanation just wouldn't cut it. Tony even set a sub-protocol for Jarvis to record every unnatural thing Naruto did inside the house. Pepper, on the other hand, accepted the explanation a little more readily. Looking back at everything Naruto had done in the past, being an alien god just makes everything a little more acceptable, even though it would be a lot better if he just said he was some James Bond type of thing. There was just one thing she didn't expect, though. Placing house rules about things that probably no one had ever done before. No fireballs, no teleportation, no X-ray eyes, no lightning balls, no sharp objects, no water balls. Basically, no balls of any kind, and dragons too. Never forget the dragons. Of course, there were always exceptions to the rule. Like he can use his X-ray eyes and teleportation for emergencies. In the end, Pepper, with the help of Jarvis, was able to make a 3-inch thick binder filled with comprehensive rules. Anyways, I have to meet my girlfriend. Naruto said before picking up his ramen bowl. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. I want to watch Rhodey's press conference tomorrow with you guys. He added with a small laugh before suddenly disappearing. Let me tell you something, Pep. I'm going to figure out how he does that. Tony declared. He already told you how he does it. Why can't you just take that answer? Pepper asked while cleaning up Tony's workspace. Because chakra is not real. There's got to be another explanation. Tony insisted. Ugh. Just let it go for now, Tony. Pepper reacted. Anyways, I contacted the wedding planner. She's coming on Saturday. Tony walked towards Pepper from behind and placed his arms around her waist. He gave an exploratory kiss to her neck and whispered. Good. I really don't want to extend this engagement period. It's so boring. I may have a way to pass the time. Pepper sexily replied before turning around and kissing Tony deeply. John, Switzerland. May 28, 2009, 0830H local. Thanks for bringing me. I really needed the break, Jessica said as soon as they arrived. She had already decided not to go in for the next 2 days, which was why she carried an overnight bag. I couldn't just leave you there. You've been studying too hard these last few months. You can say you took a long weekend in Switzerland. Naruto replied with a chuckle before giving Jess a peck on the lips, but she had other plans. She grabbed onto Naruto's face and kissed him deeper before he could pull back. When Naruto returned to the apartment in New York after Nat and Jess's misunderstanding, he was immediately pulled inside and forced into a weird conversation. By the end of the day, he was forced into something he didn't expect, an official relationship with another woman. Naruto still had no idea what transpired for both of them to pursue something so unorthodox for this world. He was reasonably sure there was an agreement between the two women. Still, his self-preservation instinct stopped him from asking. Although, if he was honest with himself, it felt a whole lot better to be romantic with both Nat and Jess rather than just with Nat. Ehem. The kissing couple heard from somewhere near the house entrance, which caused them to separate. The pair turned their head towards the door, and they saw a smiling Natasha leaning on the door frame. Enjoying yourselves? Jessica didn't even look a little sheepish. She just smiled sweetly while wiping her lips and sauntering towards Natasha, and giving her a deep kiss of her own. Still jealous? Jessica asked with a sexy tone. Well, I'm still waiting on Naruto. Natasha answered, gesturing towards Naruto. Jessica turned around and saw what Natasha was referring to. Naruto was looking at the two of them with lust clearly visible in his expression. It's good to know we can still get that reaction out of him, Jessica commented. Natasha sauntered towards Naruto and gave him a kiss, which snapped Naruto out of his stupor. He shook his head before focusing back on Natasha. Where are we again? Naruto asked seriously. We're in John Solence. Natasha answered with a giggle. Okay. Naruto absent-mindedly replied before Natasha pulled him inside. How are you doing anyway? Naruto asked Natasha as soon as they got into the house. Jessica, on the other hand, immediately went upstairs. Presumably, towards Natasha's room to place her stuff away. Still not 100%, but I'm getting there. Natasha replied, emphasizing her point by doing some light calisthenics. Already got my next mission from Fury. What are the parameters? Naruto asked. I have to go undercover for Hammer Industries. Fury believes that Justin Hammer has some shady deals. He wants me to look into it. I think there's more to it though. Natasha explained. Come on. Don't leave me hanging. Naruto urged. Well, I think it's just something to put on my resume for background purposes. He probably wants to put me inside Stark Industries somewhere in the future. Well, that's stupid. I can just put you inside the company anytime without Stark and Pepper knowing. I'm still technically on the board of directors, you know. Naruto told Natasha. Just let Fury do what he wants. I get paid either way. Natasha replied. Right on time too, since Jessica decided to walk down the stairs. Where's Peggy? Peggy? Jessica asked Natasha. On her run. She should be back in maybe an hour or two. It's taking her longer to get tired. Natasha answered. The trio made the best of their alone time. They were telling stories, laughing, and a whole lot of other things. It took another 2 hours before the door opened. Peggy walked inside the house, only a little winded. Her typical exercise routine just doesn't work anymore, and it didn't sit well with her former military side. This train of thought distracted her enough not to notice the trio in the living room. "Oh. Didn't know you guys were coming," Peggy said with her usual British accent. "But this is perfect. Naruto, how do you exercise?" "I don't exercise. It does nothing for me," Naruto answered quickly. "But I could give you some things to make your workout harder." "Oh. That would be lovely," Peggy said, a lot more relieved compared a few seconds ago. Naruto stood up and retrieved something from behind him. He walked towards Peggy and handed over the item. As she took it, she saw that it was an ornate metallic bracelet. "I'm not saying I don't appreciate the gift, but I don't typically wear jewelry," Peggy commented jokingly. "This is an invention of mine. I call it the resistance band," Naruto proudly said, but it looked like the girls didn't appreciate his naming sense judging from the stifled laughter. "Shut up," he mumbled towards his girls before bringing his attention back to Peggy. "That band will make every movement harder. It can be anywhere from 2 times up to 100 times. It will automatically adjust the level while absorbing the latent chakra that you're emanating to keep the effect up. Just keep it on at all times, even if you're just relaxing. This is perfect." "Thank you," Peggy replied gratefully before putting it on. She immediately felt the effect. It was like walking through water. "Water. I'll just clean myself up," she said before walking up the stairs to take a bath. "Wow. You made a bracelet for her, huh?" Natasha told Naruto with a contemplative tone. This caused Naruto to sweat involuntarily. "I have one for you," Naruto quickly said. Don't worry. I believe you." Stark Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. May 28, 2009, 1300 H local. "Knock, knock." Naruto shouted at the entrance. He usually would have just teleported right inside his room, but reckoned that he should at least go through the front door since he brought a guest. He made sure to tell Jarvis that it was a surprise though. "Are you sure it's okay for me to come?" Jessica asked just slightly behind him, a bit of nervous energy coming off of her. The whole scenario feels surreal. It might be because Naruto teleported her just as she started taking a nap, or because of the massive mansion in front of her. Either way, she felt like she was being introduced to the parents. "Yeah. No problem. We're just going to watch the news and maybe have some snacks before going back," Naruto answered confidently. It didn't take long for the front door to open, revealing Pepper in her stay-at-home clothes. She must have decided not to go in and just have a relaxation day. "Naruto, why are you using the front door?" Pepper asked before noticing another person beside him. "Well, hello there," she said while extending her hand towards the leather jacket-wearing woman beside Naruto. "I'm Virginia Potts, but you can call me Pepper. Sorry for just showing up. Naruto didn't even wake me up before jumping," Jessica explained while holding onto Pepper's hand and shaking it. Before introducing herself. "I'm Jessica Jones. Jessica for short." All of this was said with as much politeness as she can muster. Pepper just nodded with a smile, guessing that she was one of Naruto's girlfriends. "Come on in. Tony and Morgan are already set up in the living room even though there's another hour before the press con," Pepper said before turning towards Naruto. "I have no idea why you want to watch the press release about your mess though." Naruto nonchalantly walked straight inside the mansion with Jessica sticking closed behind him. "We just want to see how Rhodey will lie on live TV," Naruto answered while walking towards the living room. He immediately dashed towards Morgan the moment he saw her and carried her around, making her laugh. "Hi, Morgan. How are you, princess?" Naruto's antics just made her laugh harder, which also made Naruto laugh. While Naruto and Morgan are making each other laugh, Tony noticed Jessica at the living room entrance, standing uncomfortably. So, he decided to make it worse. He stood up and walked over towards the unexpected guest. "Hey, I'm Tony Stark, but you should know that. Billionaire, ex-playboy, genius, philanthropist, but you should know that since you're in my home," Tony said in the most Starkish way possible. Basically, just himself dialed to 100, and he was thoroughly enjoying the reaction that he was getting. "And you are?" Jessica took a minute to compose herself after the Tony Stark basically just harangued her. Still, Naruto's stories about the billionaire helped her calm down. "Jessica Jones. I'm Naruto's girlfriend." Jessica replied. "You mean one of Naruto's girlfriends?" Tony retorted with a smile, but Jessica just took that in stride. He checked her out up and down, which caused both Pepper and Jessica to raise their eyebrow. "Wow. Look at you. Naruto must have been a god or something." "Wait. He really is a god. Well, let's just say he's really lucky." He rambled, only to stop when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around and saw Naruto still carrying Morgan. "It's not like I appreciate you complimenting my girlfriend here, but you should stop before your engagement falls through," Naruto whispered while gesturing towards Pepper. Tony turned his head towards Pepper and saw her staring straight towards him while standing cross-armed. He then turned his head back towards Naruto. "Help me," Tony whispered back in a desperate tone. Jessica slowly moved towards Pepper, trying to get away from the childish friends. "Are they always like this?" Jessica asked quietly. "No. They're usually much worse, involving millions of dollars worth of damages and a whole bottle of aspirin," Pepper replied before pulling Jessica towards the kitchen, leaving the friends in their impromptu skit. "So, tell me about yourself, Jessica." Jessica expected some form of questioning from the Starks when she figured out where Naruto took her, so she was able to formulate an answer even before she was even asked. "There's nothing much to learn about me. I'm 23 years old and currently taking criminology. That's about it," Jessica replied, making sure to give only as little information as possible. "Ha! Just like Naruto. You probably have some huge secrets too, like being an immortal god or female super spy," Pepper nonchalantly commented. Jessica was taken off guard by Pepper's assertion. She expected the questioning. What she didn't expect was for Pepper to know a whole lot more than she thought. She was about to defend herself when a voice suddenly blared through the speakers, which surprised Jessica. "Miss Potts. We have a guest," Jarvis informed Pepper. "Who is it?" Pepper asked. "Mr. Stain. Chapter 57, Past vs. Future. Stark Industries, Malibu, Los Angeles. May 28, 2009, 13:20 local. Mr. Stain," Jarvis announced. This statement caused quite a stir from everyone inside the house. In the 3 months between Tony's announcement and now, Pepper was able to stall Obadiah from visiting the mansion by flooding him with work. This ensured that Obadiah wouldn't be able to hinder Tony's investigation, and to distance Morgan to the possible danger. Obadiah visiting now meant something different happened. Naruto rushed towards the kitchen with Tony behind him, while still carrying Morgan. He was internally scolding himself for forgetting to be ever vigilant even if he was in a relatively secure area. "Jess, Peps, can you take Morgan upstairs? I'll stay here with Tony to meet Stain," Naruto said while handing Morgan over to Pepper before turning back to Tony. "I know you're already suspecting Stain, so for the love of God, don't talk too much." Pepper and Jessica had already left the kitchen and walked towards Morgan's room. They would hide with Morgan there until they were called back. I know. Tony replied with faux confidence. Being one of the smartest people alive, he could see that the pieces of evidence were pointing to the board members. Add the fact that only Obadiah is in a position to take over Stark Industries if he was gone, and he immediately becomes the primary suspect. Still, his relationship with Obadiah prevents him from fully accepting the theory. "What are you going to do?" Naruto started walking towards the front door, but not before rapidly changing to a black suit right before Tony's eyes. Black shades and an earpiece also appeared on his head, making him look like a Secret Service agent. Tony understood Naruto's intention to act as his bodyguard, but it was just too much. There was nothing that could be done about it, though, since Obadiah has already been waiting too long outside. Naruto walked towards the door and opened it, revealing an imposing Obadiah Stane, but he just brushed it off. "Mr. Stane. I'm Nathan Umber. Mr. Stark's head of independent security under Mr. Hogan." Naruto lied while extending his hand towards the older man. He made sure to use one of his identities, so that in the off chance, Stane looks into his identities, he would not find anything of value. "Is Tony inside? I need to talk to him," Stane said with well-acted concern. Only Kurama's negative emotion sense tipped him off of Stane's real feelings about Tony. "Yes, sir. Please follow me," Naruto replied before walking back inside and heading straight towards the kitchen. Naruto made sure he locked the door and used his Sharingan to check Stane for weapons. His vigilance immediately paid off since he found half a dozen Stark Industries tech in Stane's pockets. He released a small burst of lightning chakra to disable the devices. Obadiah saw Tony pouring 2 cups of coffee on top of the kitchen counter. He saw the guard stop just outside the kitchen, giving them privacy, while still close enough to respond to any situation. This unforeseeable development prevented him from doing anything drastic. One thing he noticed, though, was the absence of Pepper and his daughter. "Tony, how are you?" Obadiah asked, trying to start the conversation. Tony slid one of the coffee cups closer towards Obadiah. "Busy. All the wedding prep is severely cutting into my workshop time," Tony said dismissively as he took a swig from his coffee. "But you're not here to check in on me. Otherwise, you would have come to visit me earlier. So, what do you need, Obi?" Obadiah released a sigh. Tony was never one for small talk, and it was going to work against him. It would make it a lot harder to talk Tony into doing what he wants, but he can still make do. "Still can't get anything past you, Tony?" Obadiah placated jestingly before turning more serious. "I need you to open up the weapons division. Don't start again, Obi. Until I find out who is selling my stuff on the black market, I don't need to do anything," Tony interjected forcefully. "Besides, our total income has increased by 8% ever since the weapons division closure. If anything, you should be asking me not to open it," he retorted. Obadiah, of course, knew about this small fact, but closing down the weapon division practically halted most of his cash flow. Selling weapons on the black market was the sole reason he was able to build up his war chest to what he had initially thought was enough to take over the company. He just wasn't able to factor in one thing: an invisible stakeholder with at least 10% stocks. Stane was only able to figure it out 2 weeks back after he helped the accounting department look through the company books. He could see the telltale signs of multiple shell companies owning small shares, all owned by one person. He had no idea who it was, but he was pretty sure that someone high up facilitated it. "We are ironmongers, Tony," Obadiah shouted, frustrated about how stubborn Tony was being. "Your father built this company to help people by making sure the government could protect them. I will not have you dishonor his legacy by bringing the company down," he added, trying to use Tony's daddy issues against him. Tony immediately paused mid-sip when he heard Obadiah's statement. Even though he believed that he had already moved on from his trauma, he still freezes up every time that he hears about his parents. Breaking out of his trance isn't much better, since a mix of overwhelming emotions started to fill him. Obadiah was smirking internally. Knowing Tony for as long as he did, he had picked up some things from his personality. He was just waiting for the inevitable blow-up that would allow him to manipulate Tony, but it looked like fate had other plans in mind. "Mr. Stark, Ms. Potts is calling. Would you like to answer?" Naruto interjected, causing Tony to snap out of his stupor. Naruto had been observing the conversation, making sure that Obadiah was not going to do anything. That was why he was able to text Pepper to cover for him if he called. Just in time, too, since Tony's negative emotions suddenly skyrocketed, giving him a reason to call Pepper. Sure. Let me talk to her now. Tony replied. Naruto then walked towards the counter island and placed his phone on it before sliding it over towards Tony since he still doesn't want to be handled stuff. Tony recognized Naruto's tactic to break him out of his emotional spiral. Although, his not answering for the sake of it. He really needed to talk to Pepper after the blatant manipulation from Obadiah. Obadiah, on the other hand, was internally cursing the guard. He wasn't sure if that Umber did it purposefully, but the guard was still a thorn on his side. Tony picked up the phone and placed it up to his ear, making sure it wasn't on speakers. Hey, Peps. Heard you were looking for me? Miss me already? Tony asked jokingly, trying to lift his spirits. Keep dreaming, Tony. We're having some girl time. Pepper replied with a chuckle. All right. I'll pick you up later. Tony said before closing the phone and leaving him a lot more calm. He turned his attention toward Obadiah. My father might have built the company, but I made it into what it is today. There's nothing you can tell me that will change my mind. He said with finality. Obadiah couldn't believe that his plan didn't work, and all because of a simple phone call. He knew that there was nothing else he could do to convince Tony otherwise. He released a sigh before drinking all of the coffee and turning toward Stark. Okay. Just don't tell me that I didn't warn you. Obadiah replied. I should go. The audit is still ongoing, and there's a lot more to do. He added before quickly walking out without even giving Tony a chance to reply. Naruto followed Stain out of the door, acting as the perfect bodyguard. He walked ahead of Stain and opened the door. Have a safe trip, Mr. Stain. Naruto said. Obadiah stared at the guard for a good while, trying to get a read on the guy that fucked the meeting up. Before I go, what's your name again? Obadiah asked, making sure that he gets the right name for his guys to look into. Nathan Umber, Sir. Naruto answered without hesitation. Good man. Stain replied while removing the imaginary dust on Naruto's shoulder. Make sure to look after Tony. He'll need it. He continued ominously before getting on the waiting SUV. As the car was driving away, Tony approached Naruto from behind. So, he's the guy, huh? Tony let out, referring to the leech inside his company. Oh yeah? Without a doubt. What are you going to do about it? Naruto replied while simultaneously changing his suit. I'll have Jarvis track everything he does. I need something that will link everything I have to him. Just make sure you don't do anything stupid. You still have a wedding to get to. Naruto's statement caused both men to laugh before heading back inside the mansion. Pushing aside thoughts about Stain and just looking forward to Rhodey's interview. Obadiah, on the other hand, was still seething with how the meeting concluded when he received a call. He retrieved his phone and immediately saw that it was encrypted. Stain. Obadiah greeted as soon as he answered. It's Raza. I have something you might want to see. Triskelion, Washington, D.C. June 3, 2009, 0900H local. Fury was currently standing inside his office in front of the large window overlooking the Washington skyline. Hill was just behind him, reading out reports from multiple high-level missions. On the other hand, the missions in Taiwan failed, though a second team has already been sent. Hill ended. Good. At least they aren't that incompetent. Fury commented. What's the progress report for Project Olympus? He asked. Project Olympus was one of Fury's pet projects alongside the Avengers initiative. Olympus was the codename given for the helicarrier's design and construction. It was originally a Navy project with the goal of creating bases with more stealth and maneuverability compared to regular aircraft carriers. The whole thing was already a decade in the making. When Fury saw the scrap designs, he immediately took it and placed the best minds S.H.I.E.L.D. had to offer in order to make it their own. He was able to put everything he wanted in there. They were going to hide it by using radar-absorbing coats and retroactive panels, making them practically invisible from the sides and below. The only downside was that they would have to stay far away from regular air traffic lanes, since the maximum operating height is only around 25,000 feet, making the helicarrier well below commercial airplane cruising altitude. Everything had a price though, and his dream base certainly didn't come cheap since it had already cost him $30 billion with another estimated $15 billion more needed to make it operational. The helicarrier was 5 times pricier than a Nimitz-class carrier and 3 times the Ford-class carrier, which is still in development. Hill did a few swipes on her tablet before finding what she was looking for. The main vessel itself is already at 70%, but there's a problem with turbines. Hill answered. Since the turbine engine power was increased by 25% to accommodate for potential engine loss, production has slowed down by 10%. She explained. The estimated completion time is around November 2011, sir. Fury released a grunt that could mean anything, at least for Hill. In reality, Fury was ecstatic about how soon he would get the carrier. How about the initiative? What's the latest report on the potential members? Fury asked, referring to his other pet project. Hill quickly adopted a displeased look. She had already voiced her displeasure about the whole Avengers initiative. She just couldn't see the use of loose cannons in trying to protect the world. Dr. Hyde is still in Brazil, working at a bottling plant. Ross is trying to call a ringer from the UK. We're still looking into who he's trying to call. Hill reported, starting with Dr. Banner. Barton and Romanoff are doing their missions. We have no idea where the Fox is. She continued. We got a whole bunch of potential candidates from the index, but I have no idea why you can't just choose from any of them. Because they're inefficient. Fury replied like it answers everything. Add another one on the list. Who? Tony Stark. I heard he built something new. He answered. Hill was, of course, surprised with Fury's order. Tony Stark was one of the few guys with a standing do not interact order, and Fury wanted to invite him to his Power Rangers. Although she still obeyed Fury's order. Fury would further inquire about the Avengers initiative, but a headache decided to show himself. Hey! Cyclops! What the hell, man? What's taking you so long? Naruto shouted as soon as he appeared right in front of Fury with his back facing Maria. Fury's eyebrow started to twitch, but he kept his calm. Hill, on the other hand, followed her instincts and quickly drew her gun and pointed it at Naruto. She only holstered gun when Fury's gun remained untouched. You need to give me more than that. Fury responded with false calm. He already connected Naruto as the harbinger of headaches. The bug blew. America's ass. The most patriotic guy in existence. The captain. Why haven't you guys found him yet? Naruto replied. One might question why Naruto was acting like this over the fact that the captain was still in the ice. However, everything could be explained with one word: Peggy. That's right. Peggy had been continuously asking Naruto about S.H.I.E.L.D's progress on finding the captain. The last time he was in Switzerland, which was 5 minutes ago, he had enough with all the asking. Don't get him wrong. He wasn't annoyed with Peggy but rather with S.H.I.E.L.D. The S.H.I.E.L.D. survey party was like only 10 kilometers away from the captain before moving to another quadrant. It's simple. Coulson just hasn't found him. I can't exactly throw large amounts of resources even if it's to find the captain. Fury retorted. Wait a second. Naruto said before suddenly disappearing. Who was that, sir? Hill asked. She was pretty sure who that wad, but it was better to be sure. Right. You still haven't met the asshole personally. Fury mused. That was the Nine Tails or the Fox. You might know the guy as Romanoff's boyfriend. Huh. He really has quite a personality on him. I thought all of you were just exaggerating. Hill replied before Naruto appeared again. Naruto didn't show up alone this time since a disoriented Coulson was with him. It looked like Naruto had just pulled Coulson out of the bed since his suit is slightly disordered. Wake up, Coulson. You are going to want to be awake for this. Naruto said while patting Coulson on the back. I'm awake. Don't worry. Coulson replied with a little less energy than usual. Now, what's the reason you pulled me out of bed and brought me in front of my boss? Naruto reached behind him and pulled out a map with a lot of writing. Coulson recognized it as his survey map. Hill walked over beside Fury to get a better look at what was happening. Recognize this? Naruto asked. Yeah. That's my copy of the crew's survey map that's looking for the captain. I'm not even going to ask how you found that. Coulson replied, a lot more alert. He was reasonably sure that he was going to learn something new. Preferably the captain's location. Exactly. Naruto commented with a smile before pointing at the SHIELD survey crew's current position. Your guys are currently here. He then moved his finger to another place on the map. They were here before. Do you know what's 10 kilometers north of that position? I'm not going to like the answer, am I? Coulson replied. Depending on how you look at it. Naruto retorted with a grin. You still want to find the captain, right? Northern Afghanistan. June 5, 2009, 2200 H local. Mr. Stain. A pleasure to finally meet you in person. Raza greeted Stain while extending his hand. A loyal customer, eh? Stain replied while shaking Raza's hand. Now, what is it you want to show me? He asked, trying to move the conversation forward. He doesn't want to stay in the middle of nowhere. Raza walked towards the huge table inside the room. This was made by Stark during their escape. The thing that will change warfare as we know it. Raza said theatrically before pulling the cover off, revealing a metal suit of armor. The modern reincarnation of the knight. He added. The scary thing is, he has already perfected it. Stain was immediately mesmerized by the suit of armor. He already knew that Tony was a genius, but this just brings it to another level. Amazing. Stain mused in awe before noticing the gap in the middle of the chest plate. What's missing here? The doctor placed an electromagnet in his chest to prevent shrapnel from damaging his heart. My men say that something was glowing at the center of his chest. That might be what powers it. Raza answered. Stain let out while pulling something out from his pocket and placing it on his ear. What do you want for me to take this? 2 more Jericho missiles and one of. Raza tried to answer before he suddenly felt paralyzed. You see this? Stain asked while showing a small device. This is one of SI's prototypes. A neural overload device. It releases a series of high-frequency sounds and electromagnetic waves that essentially give you epilepsy. This right here, pointing to a device behind his ear, counteracts the EM waves. Raza was glaring hatefully at Stain. Thank you for the gift. He added before walking outside and looking towards his guards. Clean everything up and pack up the armor inside. He ordered. Stain's guards acknowledged his order and started to shoot everyone in the camp. Stain just pushed everything out of his mind and got inside the car. Chapter 58, Shout VE Melted Down. SHIELD Safehouse, New York. June 7, 2009, 2300 H local. Damn, the captain is hot. Naruto stated a little louder than he would have liked. Everyone else in the room turned their head towards him, and gave him an appraising look. Hey! I'm into chicks, but come on. Look at the guy. He defended himself. Everyone in the room was here with one express purpose, watching over Captain America. Naruto, Fury, and Hill were the only people inside the personal observation deck with a one-way mirror overlooking at a surgical suite where the still partially frozen captain was being checked. Coulson was in the suite overseeing everything. Moving on. Hill stated, ignoring Naruto. We have already performed an MRI, CT, and brain scan. We have 100% confirmation that he's still alive and partially conscious. It's like he just went into hibernation. I don't think any average human would just hibernate in that situation. They would have just immediately died, or just become frostbitten until they died. Naruto weighed in. Erskines' formula must be godly as hell. You guys just fucked up with that Banner guy. Project Reborn was not ours, and you know that. Fury defended S.H.I.E.L.D. Ross got a little too enthusiastic with his project. Fury just wouldn't admit that the military just got the jump on him. Whoever thought of hiring Dr. Banner as the lead researcher must be among the few geniuses in the military. However, the way they handled the fallout of the Hulk countered his idea that there were smart guys in the military. Either way, Banner is still in Brazil. I'm not trying to keep as close as an eye on him as possible. Although, I pushed some stuff away. We don't want a tank on steroids in the middle of Rio, right? Naruto replied. But, I think he is planning to return stateside. What makes you say that? Hill asked. There was absolutely no intel about that. She should know since she was the one who monitors the intel coming in from all the initiative candidates. He leaves his laptop in his apartment when he goes to work. You should look into that. Naruto answered. Not really providing the reason while still giving advice. He then turned towards Fury. By the way, I still haven't got paid for Cap's intel. Don't think just because I'm going out with Nat that I work for free. Huh. I thought you did it out of the goodness of your heart. Fury replied sarcastically. Yeah. Joke all you want, Fury. I can just take the captain there and bury him somewhere else. Naruto retorted half seriously. Of course, it's a messed up idea, and he had no intention of doing it. If he ever wants to scare Fury into doing something, like maybe paying his dues, he would just need to take the captain away and bring him to Switzerland. Fury's eyes narrowed and stared down Naruto, trying to assess if Naruto would go through his threat. He was using his training to try and read Naruto's tics, but it looked like it wouldn't work. He released a sigh before giving in. What do you want? Fury asked. Can I borrow Cap's shield for a week? Naruto said with a mischievous grin. Why? I just want to play with it for a bit. Naruto replied with a shrug before reaching for something behind him. Come on, Nikki. I already have it with me. Fine. Just give it back within a week. Fury answered resignedly. Yes. Naruto exclaimed with a fist pump before putting the shield away. The trio turned their attention back to the still partially frozen captain. What's your plan for him? Assuming he wakes up. Naruto asked. We're going to make a halfway house somewhere and slowly break the news. Hill answered instead for Fury. How are you guys going to do that? We've got an old building we could use. Some agents would become actors. The goal is to just set him up first before slowly reintegrating him. Fury replied, relating the plan that he settled on after Hill consulted with some psychologists. Naruto looked at the two agents incredulously before laughing. He was laughing so hard that he was already on the floor, holding his stomach. It continued for at least 5 minutes. He slowly stood up and wiped the tears at the corner of his eye. Oh wow. Haven't laughed that hard for a long time. Naruto mused. Fury and Hill just stared at the self-proclaimed mercenary. They had no idea what Naruto found so funny about their plan, but he just had to know what it was. Care to share with the class? Fury inquired with a raised eyebrow. You really don't know, do you? Naruto replied, to which Fury just gave another stare. Come on. He's the captain. He's got an IQ of like 180, an eye for detail, and an eidetic memory. What do you think would happen? He rhetorically asked. Naruto practically spelled out his reasoning, which boiled down to the captain figuring out the ruse almost immediately. This would make a lousy impression of S.H.I.E.L.D. But even after all that, Fury still couldn't understand his logic. I thought you guys are supposed to be smart. Naruto commented with a shake of his head. I'm not going to tell you any more. Just work it out. He added. Anyways, I have to go. Just keep me posted on how your plan works out. He states with a small chuckle before suddenly disappearing. Fury started gritting his teeth. Finding Captain America was one of the most monumental parts of S.H.I.E.L.D's history, and making sure everything worked out with the Cap was paramount. If Naruto found something wrong with how he would do it, then he should be made aware of it to make sure it could be studied. Hill, find out what he's talking about. Fury ordered. I got an idea, sir. Hill hesitantly replied. Fury gave Hill a nod, urging her to continue. It's common knowledge that the captain is as straight of a shooter kind of guy we are going to get. If we ever want him to join S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future, we need to be honest with him from the start, or at least not present him a false front. Fury stood silent for about a minute, thinking about all the possible approaches that he could take about introducing Rogers to the world and all its potential repercussions. Send me a write-up from the psychologists on retainer. Fury ordered before walking out of the room. Hill followed close behind. Jean, Switzerland. June 8, 2009, 0530H local. Peggy was doing some basic yoga positions, stretching out her body before going for her daily run. She checked the resistance level of the band on her wrist. It was currently set on only 4 times resistance, and it was already making everything harder than it should be. She was about to walk out of the door when it suddenly opened from the outside, revealing Naruto, who was sporting a wide grin. Oh. Hi. What are you doing here so early? Peggy asked, a little surprised. It wasn't abnormal for Naruto to suddenly appear out of nowhere, that was basically one of his quirks, but it was very rare for him to show up this early or this excited. I've got news, and you're going to love it. Naruto replied, walking past Peggy and entering the house. I'm going for a run. Can't you just tell me while we're running? Peggy suggested, her military conditioning practically forcing her to stick to her schedule. Oh, you're not going to say that for long. Naruto retorted before reaching behind him, revealing something large, metallic, and circular. Peggy's breath hitched, and tears started forming at the corner of her eyes as she immediately recognized that the object was Steve's shield. They finally found him? Peggy whispered in a shaky voice. She felt her legs slowly turn into jelly. Naruto recognized the signs and pulled Peggy towards the couch. He then walked towards the kitchen to fetch her some water. Peggy gratefully took the glass and took a tentative sip. You okay? Naruto checked. He could see that Peggy was holding herself back a lot. Yes. I'm fine. More than fine, actually. Peggy answered after clearing her throat. When did they found him? A day or 2 ago. He just arrived 2 hours ago at a S.H.I.E.L.D. medical safe house in New York. Naruto replied. I just borrowed the shield to show you. Like proof of life or something. He added with an awkward chuckle. How is he? They did a whole bunch of tests. MRI, CT, and a brain scan. Everything looks normal, well normal for a super soldier placed on ice. Naruto explained. He's still on ice though. They want to make sure everything's ready before waking him up. Peggy slowly nodded, feeling absolutely relieved that Steve was alright until she realized what Naruto just said. Ready for what? Peggy asked. The welcome party, of course. Naruto answered like it was the most obvious thing. Fury's still debating on how he wants to do it, but he's leaning towards one of the options. I called him stupid for it. I'll need to hear it first, but I got a feeling it's ludicrous if you called it stupid, Peggy stated. Fury wanted to wake him up in a 40s-50s hospital room. They're going to say they just found him a few months after the crash and slowly let him adjust. Naruto stated. Bloody wanker. What the hell is wrong with Fury? Peggy exclaimed. Steve would figure it out immediately, even before Project Rebirth. She adopted a faraway look, remembering Steve's time during basic training. He always had an eye for detail and an unorthodox mind. Add the fact that he absolutely hates liars, just behind bullies and... She left the last part unfinished. Fury's thought process is understandable. He has been a spy for so long that his option always goes into deception and other stuff like that. Naruto stated seriously before cheering back up. Anyway, we got 3 months to whip you back to shape. Are you saying I'm fat? Peggy asked with a dangerously low voice. No. No. Of course not. Naruto replied quickly while cursing himself for not thinking things through. I'm just saying that if you want to keep up with the captain, we should start training your specialized katas up to a certain level. He explained. Bollocks. Peggy cursed under her breath. When are we gonna start? Now. Just right after you do your daily routine and stuff. Naruto said as he walked back towards the door, but he suddenly stopped right before he walked out. Stupid. Stupid. Ugh. He exclaimed while banging his head on the door. Peggy stared at Naruto with both worry and curiosity. She walked up behind Naruto and placed her hand on his shoulder. Naruto turned his head towards her. What's the problem? Peggy asked with a soft voice. Tony and I just overlooked something, and it might just bite us in the ass. Naruto answered. We'll start with the katas tomorrow. I need to handle something. He added before suddenly disappearing, leaving Peggy on her own. Ugh. He's just gonna leave me with no other details. Peggy complained. Kids these days. No respect for the elderly. She said before walking out of the door to start her run. She couldn't stop her smile though every time she remembered that Steve is finally out of the ice. Stark Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. June 7, 2009, 2100 H local. Tony, Pepper, and Morgan were enjoying their rare time off. Nothing like family time to recenter oneself, even amidst everything that has been happening. The Stark family was just sitting on the couch with Pepper playing with Morgan when Tony returned back to the living room with a bowl of popcorn. Don't get me wrong, I love the excitement, variety, and all of that, but sometimes it's nice to have some downtime. Tony mused out loud. Yeah, and then Naruto suddenly shows up out of nowhere. Pepper replied. Morgan perked up when she heard Naruto's name. Naruto? Morgan asked while looking around. Don't say it one more time. You'll summon him. Tony said half-jokingly. What? Naruto? Pepper retorted. He's not going to appear out of nowhere. She added before instantly regretting it. Naruto suddenly appeared in the living room. Told you. He's like Beetlejuice. Say his name 3 times and he shows up. Tony exclaimed while Pepper has a sheepish expression. Tony, we need to talk. Naruto said seriously. Ugh. Can't this wait? I just microwaved some popcorn. Tony whined. Stain got your scraps. Naruto plainly replied. Scraps? What scraps? Tony asked. Pepper is listening to the conversation intently. The 10 rings collected the Mark I scraps and Stain got his hand on it. Naruto answered. What? Didn't I blow that up? Tony exclaimed. Yeah. As far as I can tell, you left nothing but scraps. The only thing they salvaged is the twisted armor. Naruto explained. The problem comes when Stain somehow got footage of the attack on Gulmira. He got some SI scientists and engineers reverse engineering the armor. Tony cursed under his breath. Using RDX to blow up his armor was looking like a bad decision. It looked like he should probably have used a high-temp explosive to melt down the armor. You got the names of the employees helping Stain? Tony asked. Some but not all. I can get the full list tomorrow. Naruto replied. What are you going to do with them? For now. Nothing. Depending on what happens, I might fire them. Tony said. Jarvis. Search the SI servers for anything that might relate to my armor. Start looking into Obi's PC. Immediately, sir. Jarvis quickly confirmed. You should probably keep Happy with you at all times. Rhodey would be even better. He's looking for a valid power source, and you've got the only viable one. He might make a play for it. Naruto advised. Tony unconsciously placed his hand on his chest. The one currently inside his chest was a second version of the arc reactor. It has double the output of the first arc reactor. There was just no telling what Stain could do if he got his hand on the miniature arc reactor. You guys still got the knife I gave you guys? Tony and Pepper look at each other before Pepper answered. We still got it, but we can't exactly bring it with us. A knife isn't exactly the most discreet thing ever. Pepper replied. Naruto adopted a more contemplative look. Give me your arm. Naruto requested, but Tony and Pepper were a little apprehensive. Come on, it's not going to hurt. Tony and Pepper reluctantly extended their left and right arm respectively. Naruto grabbed onto their wrist until some kind of writing appeared above the pulse point. The writing started to fade until it completely disappeared. Just rub your wrist if you're in trouble. I should show up and get you out of there. Tony and Pepper stared at the spot where the writing showed up. There's also a small load of young chakra in there which should help with small wounds and bruises. How about Morgan? Pepper asked. I already gave her the bracelet. That's more than enough to take out a standard assault squad. Naruto replied absent-mindedly before walking towards the couch and dropping beside Tony. Man, this day just keeps coming. He said before releasing a sigh. Never thought I'll ever see you tired. Tony commented. What has got you so wound up? Not enough time with the ladies? He teased while wagging his eyebrows. Yeah. There's also the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. finally found the guy your old man kept on looking for. Naruto replied. Tony took a few seconds to understand who Naruto was talking about. Though, he got assaulted by mixed emotions when he figured out who Naruto was talking about. They found the captain? Yup. Brought him back to New York a few hours ago. Tony stayed silent after he got his confirmation. Pepper could clearly see the internal battle that Tony was fighting. Okay. What are you guys talking about? Pepper interjected. Remember Coulson? Pepper nodded at Naruto's question. He found Captain America. Like the Captain America. Yup. In a plane 10 m below the ice somewhere near Greenland. Huh. When and where are they going to bury him? Pepper asked. There will be no burial. Well, at least for some time. Naruto retorted. The guy is still alive. The super soldier serum kept him alive. He just needs some thawing out and he's good to go. Tony and Pepper were obviously surprised. It had been almost 70 years from when the plane crashed. How the hell was he still alive? Morgan had already fallen asleep sometime during the conversation. All the adult talk probably bored the hell out of her. Naruto stood up and did some small stretches. Alright. I need to check up on the girls. Call me if you need anything, Naruto announced before disappearing. Tony and Pepper took a few moments before they recovered from Naruto's news. Next time we have some downtime. Never say his name. Got it? Tony said. No problem. Already learned my lesson. Pepper replied. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.